Hello, I'm Michael Reed, Vedic astrologer with over 20 years of experience in the astrological field. If you're interested in scheduling one of my personal consultations, you can do that through the astrological services page that you will see linked above. As well, I will be starting a course in August on the components that I utilize in order to put together my regular transit videos and especially my lunar transit videos and articles. This course is on the elements of the Panchangam, and it will start in August, as I mentioned, but the course is presently open for early registration at a 10% discount. That 10% discount is being offered until the 8th of May. So if you're interested in registering and registering early, you can do so at the link above. But don't worry, the course will stay open for registration. So you're bigger than all of this. And somewhere inside of yourself, you know that you're bigger than all of this. And that's simultaneously good, and it's equally simultaneously not so good. Because on another level, you're not bigger than all of this. So, how to circle that square, or square that circle, or deal with that seeming contradiction. Let's dissect this a little bit. So you're bigger than all of this because inside of yourself, you do have the capacity to open your scope of vision. You do have the capacity to see the bigger picture of a situation rather than being blinded by your narrow focus of a way that you'd like to continue seeing the situation. You need to take a look at something that's becoming increasingly blatantly obvious, and on a certain level, that's really difficult for you to do. But somewhere inside of yourself, you've got to find the capacity to do that. Now, how are you not bigger than all of this? Well, somewhere inside of yourself, you're thinking that you know the way things should be. You're thinking that you have the capacity to persist through the difficulty, push up against those barriers, and eventually have those barriers give and break down, and for you to rush through towards the goal that you'd really like to achieve, which is about altering a specific situation that you've been dealing with for a very long period of time. But guess what? You can push and you can push and you can push against that resistance with a sense of sheer determination, but it's not going to budge in quite the way that you would like for it to. And that is because you need to realize that on one level, you are not bigger than all of this. So you have the choice between deciding if your ego is bigger than all of this, or if your capacity to align with the essence of who you truly are, to connect to your soul, and to understand that you really need to ultimately do what's right, and in doing what's right and ultimately being humble, then you are actually being bigger than all of this. And even though it may seem like you're seemingly degrading yourself to a state that you don't want to take yourself, ultimately you're rising above it. Now, on the 30th of April, Saturn will station and turn retrograde for the next several months until the 18th of September, when it will once again station and turn back direct. Saturn will continue its transit through Uttara Ashadha Nakshatra all the way through to the 4th of August. And the whole time that this is going in, Saturn is traveling in close proximity to Ketu. Ketu-Saturn combinations, they tend to create a tendency to approach things in a specific way. And I'm going to give you a little bit more background and then I'll explain what I'm talking about. Ketu on one level relates to our natural approach to things, our karmic tendencies to react to specific situations, right? When that comes together with Saturn, the way that we tend to approach things, because Saturn is a downward-looking planet whose focus is very narrow, and Ketu on many levels is blind, and the way that we begin to approach situations in that particular manner is by thinking that we know, right? And by thinking that we know, we go, okay, well, certainly things have to be this way, and ultimately we go through an experience where our authority is challenged. which on one level is not a very pleasant experience, and on another level it's a humiliating experience, right? But at the same time, we have the choice to see whether we're ultimately being humiliated and embarrassed, or we have an opportunity to be humble. Now, Uttara Ashadha Nakshatra is connected to the planks of a bed, right? Now you think about it, the bed is a resting place. The planks on a bed are the lowest part of the bed. So this is a symbol that on a certain level, in order to attain a level of peace, you need to go to what seems to be the lowest level. But ultimately, it's not the lowest level. You need to recognize on a certain level, you don't know everything. But you equally need to learn that you are willing to be taught. Now, Saturn, at the same time that Saturn has that capacity to cause you to think in very narrow-minded ways, it also has the capacity to take you to that space of humility, because Saturn is a Sudra planet. So rather than serving a master in the ego that's going to drive you to distraction and frustration and make it so that you ultimately come up against resistance, why not serve another master, and that master being your soul, through a level of humility and a willingness to take a look. Uttara Ashadha Nakshatra provides the opportunity for universalization, for being able to see things from a wider perspective. And with this particular transit of Saturn and Ketu together, you have the capacity to do that, and ultimately through doing so, releasing a lot of attachment that you've been holding on to for several years, right? Now, this particular transit of Saturn and Ketu and Uttara Ashadha Nakshatra doesn't happen very often. So you need to take advantage of the situation, and on the day, and you can actually learn a lot about particular transits, especially when a planet's stationing and getting ready to turn retrograde or direct, by looking at the elements of the Panchanga in association with it. I want to focus on just one. Actually, we'll focus on two. We'll focus on the Karana and equally the yoga for the day. So the Karana on that particular day is Bhava, and the yoga for that particular day is Aindra, which means belonging to Indra. Both of those particular factors relate to the idea that on a certain level, you need to not get pulled into something by your senses, right? So your senses are seeing the situation in a manner that goes, right, this isn't fair, so I have to do that. But what you need to do is you need to exercise a certain level of self-control. And even though on one level you may not want to face something, you need to try to rise above the situation. This particular feeling may be preceded by an energy of powerlessness, right? Because we like to be in charge. We don't want to have to be humiliated or embarrassed or have our dignity taken away from us. But in that moment when we recognize that we don't need to be in control of everything and that life can become a lot easier when we're not, that's the moment that a lot of abundance comes our way, the path opens up for us, and we recognize that we've been blind and distracted all along to something where we thought we were proceeding in a manner that was going to be helpful to us, when instead we were putting at bay the very thing that we were trying to achieve. So you have the opportunity now to stop doing that, and over the course of the next several months, you're likely going to find yourself in a position where you're having to face some realizations, own up to them, take a look at them, be willing to move in the direction that you're being shown. Somewhere around July, probably around the middle of July, this is all going to begin to get a lot easier for you. So do the groundwork now. Put the effort in and be willing to approach things with a level of humility. And if you could use a little bit of help with those particular factors, or I should say that particular process, I should mention that I do offer several different levels of astrological service. All of these are available through the astrological services page of my website. If you're interested in scheduling with me, once again, you can do so through the link above. That's going to do it for this look at Saturn stationing retrograde in Uttara Ashadha Nakshatra, which takes place on the 30th of April, and Saturn will continue in retrograde motion all the way through to the 18th of September. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.